tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 14 of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Chris Infante. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or on Twitter at bcameronpsn, at Infante54, also at Flipping Birds Pod. And today we have a special guest, from Bleeding Green Nation, co-host of Babes on Broad, Jessica Town.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
How you doing? How you feeling?
Well, I feel slightly better after the Cowboys just lost, but not feeling great as a whole today, unfortunately. I'm sure you guys are the same.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if I anticipated this today, I anticipated a close game. I did not anticipate a blowout loss. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have drank as much yesterday. I would have saved a lot for today, because just watching that game. First of all, I have Sling. I don't have cable, because cable around me, Optimum, is like $100 for basic cable, and that's without internet. Plus internet, it's like $140, $160. So I subscribe to Sling, and Sling doesn't have a contract with. Actually, no, I'm lying. So they have a contract with Fox, but I looked up this morning if for some reason it said Fox and Sling didn't have a contract anymore. So I didn't even bother logging into Sling to see if Fox 5 was on there. So I was looking through streams throughout the whole game and finding streams that kind of worked, kind of didn't. They would stop in the middle of the game, and I'm here freaking out like, all right, I got to deal with a loss and my TV going out. And then at the end of the game, I put on Sling to find something to watch. And the first thing I see is that Eagles at Vikings on my TV. It was on the TV the whole time. I didn't have to stream. So not only did I have to deal with the loss, I had to deal with the fact that I was killing myself trying to find the stream when it was on the TV the whole time.
Can I say I'm very disappointed in you right now? That you went through all that today?
It's been a rough Sunday.
So being that it's been a rough Sunday, we're 3-3, but we're tied for first. But then again, Kirk Cousins rained on a crazy aerial attack all over our corners right now. So where do we go from here at this point? 6 games in the season, and we still have no help in the secondary. We still have no help for Carson Wentz on the offense. Deshaun is still banged up with that tear in his abdomen that nobody knows when and if he can come back 100%. So the big question is really, where do we go from here at this point?
What do you think, Jesse? I'm still depressed.
I mean, it's really difficult to see where they go from here, just because there are so many problems. It's not one issue. They're not having one consistent problem. It's not something new every week, but something that maybe seems like it could be solved. It could kind of make it through until people get healthy again and things like that. But, then it just gets worse. You want to hope that bringing back guys like Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby and Cravon LeBlanc as they get healthier is going to help. But, someone like Jalen Mills, he hasn't played football in over a year. Mm-hmm. Missed the second half of the season last year, the entire offseason, and we'll just be getting back. It's hard to believe that he's going to make the huge impact right away. But, they're obviously missing the way that he plays. He might get burnt up and down the field a little bit, but when it comes, outside, in between the 20s, I don't care what happens, but in the red zone, he plays so well. And he has that, you have to be kind of crazy to be a corner in the NFL. Like, you have to have
he's a psycho.
memory, and you have to be almost psychotic. He has that. And that's why I love watching him play. Sidney Jones, on the other hand, doesn't. When you get benched for a guy who was on the practice squad 2 weeks ago, it's a problem. It's a giant problem. I'm at the point where I'm out on Sidney Jones. Like, I really just I'm sick of seeing him play. I'm sick of seeing him on the field. I'm sick of seeing him get burnt back and forth. It's he's chewed up a roster spot for the last 3 years that honestly he doesn't really deserve. So the secondary needs so much help. And the fact that, we as a fan base, whether we want to admit it or not, may have overvalued this offense when we're basing our season and our success on the return of a 32-year-old wide receiver.
It's true. Like this whole, literally every other tweet coming out of Eagles Twitter over the offseason was first play of the regular season better be a 70-yard bomb to Deshaun Jackson. It was over and over and over. When's the D-Jacks? When's the D-Jacks? When's the D-Jacks? Hey, like this should have been happening years ago when Chip Kelly cut him. We finally get to see it. We got to see it for a game.
Literally,
and now,
one half.
And now everybody's like, "Oh wait, our offense kind of sucks." So like we should have did more in the offseason, or we should have did this, did that, and it was really just everyone's just so focused on the Wentz Jackson combination to not realize that there's a whole lot more problems going on this offense. The fact that it really relies on just a deep threat in general for it to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that graphic said it all when it came up during the game that Wentz this season's 2 for 2 on deep balls when it's Jackson, and he's averaging 50 yards a catch, and then I think he was like 4 for 18 or something like that to everybody else with 2 interceptions. There's what these wide receivers right now can't get separation.
So here's the craziest stat. Just to interrupt you real quick because it's on the same subject you're on right now. You know who led the team in receiving yards this game?
Miles Sanders.
86 yards.
Yeah, a running back.
Yep.
That's wild.
He's the biggest threat right now.
Yeah.
Of the receiver position, which is, I mean, you kind of saw it. That one deep ball to Nelson Aguilar.
And he can't find the ball.
I mean, it looked like he stopped trying. He didn't have a bad game. He actually played relatively well compared to how he's played the last couple games. But, at that point, it was just kind of, and additionally, compared to everything else and adding on everything else, it looked like you could count on one hand how many guys actually really wanted to win that game. Like you could count on one hand how many guys were out there battling every single snap and how many quit.
I would say maybe 4. Yeah, you got Wentz, definitely. Wentz, he was getting so frustrated.
Oh,
and
he was so mad.
He deserves to be free. Like it's not like, oh, Wentz, why are you getting frustrated out there? No, he did everything possible.
There's not much more you can do. That's the problem.
He's putting the ball in receivers' hands, and they're just like, oh, nope, don't want that.
Might try to complain about him and try to put these losses on him that. Were there a couple times where the ball came out a little bit late and you should have seen things? Sure. There's obviously something that everybody can work on in a loss. But to blame him in any capacity as the reason that they lost this game is just stupid.
Right.
Pretty much the Nick Foles effect right now that Carson Wentz is still going through, which is unfortunate.
I think his interception was his first interception, I think, in like 150 pass attempts.
I think it was, around 150.
Around 150, so he's been right now he has 3 interceptions in the whole season. Dak Prescott had that in one game last week. And people still want to clown him or call him Carson Wentz or whatever they want to say. He's a stud, and we have a stud as a quarterback again for the next decade. But you're wasting him if you're not putting the right things around him to succeed. If our number one receiving target, our receiving threat is Miles Sanders, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So with what you're saying, right? I'm gonna ask a serious question, and just hear me out. This offseason,
I hate how you whenever you hear me out
because bullshit take. It's the truth. Yeah. Did Howie Roseman play too cute this offseason? Think about it for a second. Everybody that was added.
Well, he added Deshaun.
32-year-old deep threat. Only deep threat.
He had
nobody behind him.
He had Malik Jackson.
Injured.
He brought back Tim Jernigan.
Injured.
He brought back Sproles.
Injured.
Zach Brown. Oh, Zach Brown.
Zach Brown put on us today.
I would like to leave Zach Brown in Minnesota. He does about as much good there as he does on the field for the Eagles.
Him and Sydney, they can go to the Mall of America. Get them lost in the Mall of America.
The only reason we got Sidney Jones is because the Vikings jumped us for Dalvin Cook. Am I right or wrong about that? Was it the same draft?
It was the same draft.
It was the same draft.
Yeah. I think it was the pick before him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The Eagles jumped up, or the Vikings. I remember because I was still in college and I was driving home. I was a dance teacher. I still am a dance teacher as well, but I was driving home from teaching and I had it up on my phone and I kept he was still there. He was still there. He was still there. And all of a sudden I saw the Vikings jumped and I was like, I knew that was the end of it. And it was, unfortunately. But I think the biggest problem with Howie is I think he overvalues the talent that they have. And I think he doesn't value certain positions that have become increasingly important in the NFL. For example, like a linebacker. The Eagles haven't valued a linebacker.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Since Trotter.
Mm-hmm.
And, I am on record saying, I'm so you guys mentioned I'm on Babes on Broad with Bleeding Green Nation with Sam Wilson, but I also do a second podcast called The Madness. And my co-host Rob Langi and I, we talk about, we broke down the entire roster, kind of before the season started and before free agency even started. We talked about the different kinds of guys that we would like to see the Eagles make a run at. And obviously there were the big names like a CJ Mosley or a Quan Alexander that were out there.
I wanted Quan so bad.
I wanted Quan so bad too. And I was on record saying in March, if they do not get one of those guys, if they cannot get one of those guys, they need to try to keep Jordan Hicks. Obviously the number was huge and that would have sucked, but we've seen that, Howie's a cap genius. He's a salary cap god. He can figure that out. But Jordan Hicks is playing extremely well down in Arizona right now. And obviously they don't have a very good football team, but when he was on the field, he was a difference maker. He was also Dak Prescott's kryptonite. Yep. He always had a good game in Dallas. And, the same people that want to complain about him being injury prone or whatever are the same people that were all for Carson Wentz's extension. And I am all for Carson Wentz's extension. Absolutely. He also has played a 16-game season. Jordan Hicks has played a 16-game season as well. So the logic there, I don't quite understand because you had, one of the kinds of linebackers that we haven't seen in Philly in a while, and you just kind of let him walk.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, Jordan Hicks, he's having a monster year. He does have a different training staff now.
True.
So
that has to be it with this damn team. Like this training staff has to be doing
down
something.
in Arizona. They probably got a nice facility over in Phoenix. So he's probably living the good life in that training room. They're keeping him healthy. Here, he probably would have been on IR already.
But how do this is their third new medical staff in the last 3 years. They've fired their medical staff every year, and they still get one that's worse than the last. I don't understand how that's possible.
Like it's crazy how all these soft tissue injuries are happening. Like
it's not a Philly thing too. Like this is not really happening that common anywhere else.
It's the only other place is the Redskins, but the Redskins are just complete dumpster fire. So
they're just all falling apart.
I mean, they almost lost to the Dolphins today. So
they really did.
It's the Redskins are always going to be the Redskins, but it's crazy how some of our players can just go out for warm-ups and then all of a sudden, breaking news, they're out for the game.
Yeah.
Like the Falcons game. And then all of a sudden, like the Deshaun injury came out of nowhere.
Right.
It literally did.
He wasn't on the injury report for the first game, and after the game he seemed fine, and all of a sudden Falcons game, nope, he's out. And he might be out a game or two. Oh, it's been a month now. So what the hell are they doing back there
and the same thing,
get these guys healthy?
Same thing happened to Jalen Mills. I think Jess, you mentioned it on your podcast about Jalen when you spoke to him.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Yeah, I'll be back in like 2 weeks, or I'll be back." For I forgot what game he said
it was a Saints
back
game. He was telling me he wanted to be on the field to play the Saints, and he went down when they played in London, and I saw him during their bye week at a charity event, and he was in a walking boot. And I said to him, I just kind of asked him, when are you gonna be back? We need you out there. What is your kind of timeline looking like here? And he said, I'll be back in 2 weeks. And I said, is that 2 weeks for the Saints game or after the Saints game? And he said, oh no, I want that Saints game. So I'm like, all right, awesome. And at that point, so then, as time went on, I was like, God damn it, Jalen Mills lied to me. That's so rude of him to just lie to me like that. And then upon, talking a little bit further with a couple different players, and I, jokingly mentioned to them that Jalen Mills lied to me. And they, kind of confirmed, like, no, he didn't lie to you. That's exactly what he thought at that time. That injury was so much worse than he or anyone else initially thought. And that's why, when it was a foot sprain. And that's why when Cravon went down day 2 of training camp with a foot sprain, I was like, oh Jesus, here we go again.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, like Matt Collins. Matt Collins last year,
the strangest one.
Like he's out all year, and then no one even knows if he's alive. And then he was, what was it? He was out with a groin injury, and everybody was like, "Okay, he should have been back months ago." And now where the hell is he? And like the big storyline when his first game of the year was like, "Oh well, he's here. Look at him. He's in uniform." It's crazy. Like whoever we get, if we get anybody at this point. I know the trade deadline's still a few weeks away, but you have to think, all right, they might be balling out somewhere else, but when they come here,
it's going to be a Golden State issue again, or is it going to be JJ?
It's going to be like a ticking time bomb until they go down, and then we spend draft capital for someone that is not even there anymore.
At this point, I don't even care about sending draft capital because their drafting sucks anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Very true.
For every Zach Ertz, there's a Danny Watson.
Yep, 100%.
They hit with Miles Sanders though.
For every Miles Sanders, there's a Clayton Thorson.
I still don't get that draft pick. Oh, wow. So I feel like every week we've been discussing how to fix this damn team. It's gotten to a point where it's just like, I really don't know what to say anymore.
Just looking at that Jets game today, there's 2 players that can help us out, and they can play the Cowboys again next week. Robbie Anderson and Leonard Williams. Deep threat and pass rush. Deep threat and a pass rush.
And Leonard Williams laid out Dak Prescott. I don't know if you saw that hit.
Yep.
Oh, it was beautiful.
He could do it again this week.
It was so pretty.
So,
I know last year Golden Tate torched the Cowboys, and then a few weeks later he got to play them again with us, but he didn't do
Absolutely.
Lions things with us. He did Eagles things with us, which is
weird because like he's on the Giants and he kind of did Lions things with the Giants against the Patriots.
I guess he really likes Daniel Jones, huh?
Apparently so. So now we're heading to Dallas, tied 3-3, both of us. Obviously, I don't think Amari Cooper is up in the air with that because I think he has a quad injury now.
Mm-hmm.
So we may have saving grace with that.
And who knows about their tackles, Tyron Smith and Collins.
And Jalen is supposed to be available.
They said they weren't doing well this week. It wasn't either of them that tried to test it pregame and couldn't go. But I mean, you have to imagine Tyron Smith is still a little bit of timeout. I mean, he hobbled off the field in New Orleans, but he was carted to the locker room after that.
Yep. Well, I mean, Dr. Jerry Jones a couple days ago, said, I think I read it on Pro Football Talk. He said, I expect to have at least one of our tackles this game. He's always the doctor. Neither one played. So, and I saw actually Byron Jones left the game today too, a hamstring injury.
Speaking of Byron Jones, Rasul Douglas was ranked ahead of Byron Jones in PFF. I just want to put that out there.
Probably not after today.
Oh, definitely not today. It was definitely before today.
Diggs made Sewell his baby today.
I honestly feel bad for Rasul Douglas because he never gets the chance to just go out there and start and play really well. He's always just kind of an afterthought thrown out there, and
they treat him like he's a terrible cornerback.
Yeah, an afterthought thrown when people get hurt. He's just tossed in there at the end, and I just feel like he hasn't gotten a fair shot, and he only has certain it's because of injuries. Here, go figure this out, kind of stuff for his career.
He's been that. It's kind of like how Smallwood was when he was on the team. Smallwood was always on the team. It seemed like he was on the team forever, but he never got the shot. He was just the injury fill-in. He was just like, all right, these first 3 guys or 4 guys are hurt. Go ahead, go do your thing. And then he would do his thing, and then now he's cut, obviously. But I mean, That's what
Sewell's ability is too obvious now.
Yeah, like, he led the team.
Everybody knows he's the
interceptions
best
last
corner.
year.
Yeah, he's the best corner on this defense. And for
Right.
some reason, like just said, he gets treated like an afterthought. Smallwood was he was terrible when he got his chance.
I mean, Smallwood was the typical rotation back. I think I looked at his stats from last year, and carries like 1 through 8, 1 through 9 were always like a 5 yards carry clip. But then give him more, he gets tired, and then like carries 10 to 15, 15 to 20, they're all like 2 yards to carry. Yeah, it's just so he was the very good guy to bring in for a snap or two, like go get a chunk of yards, and then he goes off and gets his oxygen. But if he was in the game the whole time, he's scrub.
So entering week 7, where we got to take on the Cowboys, and I believe it's in AT&T Stadium, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles typically have until like Tuesday, Wednesday to really make a trade to kind of get that player in, in sync with, whatever offense or defense that they're going to be playing with. Do you honestly see Howie making any move before the deadline right now?
Before the deadline, yes. Before Dallas, no.
I think I do agree. I do agree with that. Because today's the 13th. You got 16 days until the trade deadline, which will be my dad's birthday. So happy birthday in advance, Dad. So 16 days from now, you would assume he makes a trade. Last year was Golden Tate. Year before was Jai. It's gonna happen. But I think it comes quick. It might. I do want to leave out the possibility of it being this week, but I feel like that's long gone since it's an away game. They're probably not going to practice tomorrow. This will be a media day, and Tuesday practice, Wednesday practice. Then they got to get on the plane. So they're really only having like two practices at home. So what new guy is going to come in, do 2 practices, and then get ready to go on Sunday? Outside of Robbie Anderson and Leonard Williams, who could just say, you know what, we'll just do our thing that we did today. But Malcolm Jenkins pretty much called out all the corners today.
He did. I did see that quote. You have it right there.
Yeah, he said, this is from Jeff McClain's tweet. Malcolm Jenkins on helping the Eagles' young quarterbacks. This game's not for suckers. If you aren't confident on the outside, then we can't use you. So don't mind that we don't mind that they're challenging the outside of it. We can do what we can to protect them from the calls, but at the end of the day, our defense is going to call for guys to be able to go outside and cover.
And can I say that Malcolm Jenkins, he still has not missed a damn game, and everybody on the Eagles has missed at least like 1 or 2. How is that possible? Like, is he seeing a different training staff right now?
Can I propose something right here? How about we? You've heard of player coaches before. How about player trainers? let Malcolm lead the training staff and give him some of his juju, because whatever he's doing is working. Dude's an Iron Man. And he got to share some of his diet tips, or and his yoga or whatever the hell he's doing back there, and get these corners hamstrings to not be tissue paper.
Sydney's hamstrings only go when he gets beat badly.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to say that too, because he said you mentioned that on Babes on Broad, so I was waiting for you to bring that up.
It's so true. You see him get beat, and then all of a sudden it's this hamstring. Today he just got straight benched, which I don't disagree with.
For Craig James.
But that's how bad they are. That's how bad the secondary is. And honestly, that's my concern with Howie making a move is I don't think anything happens before Dallas. I think before the trade deadline, closer to the deadline is more of a possibility, but they're banking on guys coming back healthy, being able to go, 3-3 at hopefully a better 4-2 over this, next stretch of games, including today. Obviously they have this tough 3-game road stretch, but then they come home and it doesn't get any easier. They play the Bears at home, have their bye, and then they play the Patriots at home, and then they play the Seahawks at home. But then if they're able to, if Dallas is actually as bad as they've looked these last 3 weeks and they're able to go down to Dallas and get a win, their last stretch of 6 games is, I hate to say it, but it's a cakewalk, and you could win this division at, 10-6, because you play the Giants twice in December, you play the Redskins again, you play Dallas at home, and you play Miami.
Yep.
So if they can kind of limp through this, get some guys back healthy, and then go through the last couple games of the season and win those games and kind of win out towards the end and go into playoffs healthy, it's a little bit, it's almost not worth giving up things here and there that could help you in that last stretch and hopefully in a playoff run.
But what about, so I think you're correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're speaking more on the defensive side, right?
Definitely more the defensive side. I mean, you hope that Deshaun's kind of in there as well because he's really it. He's all you're talking about right now on offense.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only thing you're missing. I don't think not having a Darren Sproles really hurts them that much at this point. I don't think not having a Corey Clement really hurts them that much at this point. It's not having that deep threat to stretch the field, and that's obviously Deshaun. And then all the injuries are on the defensive side of the ball right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we did see this. Who knows how Jason Peters is after this game, but we did see the emergence of our boy Dillard.
Dilly Dillard.
And if he's in there, I mean, I don't think DeMarcus Lawrence has done much this year, if anything. So if Dillard's in there, I think he can handle Lawrence. But yeah, like all the injuries are on the defensive side of the ball. It's ridiculous. Now we lost Bradham for however long.
Well, I don't think it's a major loss though with Bradham though.
Yeah, but now the linebacker depth is even thinner than it was before. Camu is still making his way back. Then you got our Liam's favorite player, MVP Nate Gary. He's the leading interception.
You're gonna get us fired one of these days. I want you to know that.
I push the buttons. I push the limits. It's okay.
You don't push the buttons. Like you actually take the button now. You work the kinks behind it and everything. Rewire everything.
So that's why LJ brought me here for. Add some spice.
If you would have told me over the summer that through 6 games Nathan Gary would be leading the team in interceptions, I would have laughed in your face.
Yep.
That's really wild.
But here we are, 3-3, and Gary is our ball hawk.
Apparently.
He's our Asante Samuel this year.
Yikes.
But speaking of the schedule, like what you were saying, like the way it falls for the Eagles, it's been like the disaster, and it can end up being paradise at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the opposite for Dallas. Like this loss if they lose to the Eagles this Sunday, it's going to be rough for them. They go to the Giants. They have a bye, and then they go to MetLife. But then they have Minnesota. Then they have Detroit. Then they have New England on Thanksgiving. Then they have Thanksgiving's the 28th. Then they have New England on the 24th. Then a few days later, the Bills come in, and their defense is very good. Come in on Thanksgiving. Then they got Chicago. Then they got the Rams, and then they got the Eagles, and then they end the season with the Redskins. So that is rough if they lose to us.
Their time was now. Their time was now to really kind of build up their wins and have that ability to lose a few on the back end. Our time was now to build up some of those more difficult wins, so it's easier to get those wins and kind of make that a little bit better towards the end of the season and stack them up to be able to win the division. But depending on if they make any adjustments, when they get healthy, all those kinds of things. I mean, I'm hoping that game in December the division doesn't come down to that. I don't want my mood on Christmas to rely on that. But I mean, it'll be really interesting. I still think, the Cowboys have a very good defense. But they've been exposed a little bit over these last couple weeks, and Dak is still Dak.
I mean, they have really been exposed rushing wise. I mean, Aaron Jones destroyed them last week. Bell had a touchdown today and 50 yards, but
that was his first touchdown though.
That was. It took him the Cowboys to let him have it. Dak didn't have a touchdown today. He didn't have an interception though, so I guess that's good for them. Dak pick. I think I saw a nickname last week. Dak Pick Scott.
Love that.
I like that a lot. If they want to call Wentz with the INT in there, he's going to be Dak Pick Scott.
So here's what I'm gathering from everything, right? Today I saw a different Carson Wentz. I saw the Carson Wentz that everybody's been craving for, that everybody's been wishing that they would see, the kind of like over playmaker that he once was, and he looked really good. I mean that one round read option where he just ran it for like, I think it was like almost like what, like 12 or 15
16 yards.
Yeah. I feel like these losses aren't gonna be detrimental to this team as much as we think it would be towards the end of the season. I think Wentz is gonna find a way where it's like we're gonna see another level of Wentz, knowing that he doesn't really have that deep threat. He can't trust Aguilar, but he's finding something in that he can trust in Sanders. He's finding his way to Alshon. I think Alshon had like 10 receptions this game. I think that's the highest he's ever had as an Eagle. I'm actually really looking forward to this Dallas matchup just because of Wentz. Like that's truly like my only like bright thing to take away from the Vikings game. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I'm excited to see Wentz, but at the same time, he still has that defense behind him that just gave up 38 points to
a defense facing Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Mark Cooper.
No, maybe no. I personally think Gallup is better than Cooper this year. So.
Gallup dropped some passes in the game.
Gallup Gallup did his best Eagles impression today, dropping all the passes. But like, I mean, the Dallas offense is really just Zeke. But when they play from behind, there's no Zeke anymore. It's Dak, and he's going to be making the mistakes. So that, like, the Eagles, for the trash that they did today, the absolute garbage that they threw out there today, outside of Cook's late touchdown run, he didn't do anything.
He only had 41 yards.
And he averaged 2.6 yards a carry. The second leading rusher in the entire league, who's averaging 108 yards a game, had 41 yards on 2.6 yards a carry. So if they're doing that to Cook, they've done that to Aaron Jones now. They've done that to Le'Veon Bell. Now it's time for people to really look at this rushing defense and say, this is it. This is the rushing defense right here. But now you're sacrificing passing defense. So if they can't run the ball, well, you know what? Let's see. We're going to put Gallup on outside against Sewell. No safety help. We're going to put Blake Jarwin. I don't even know if they have Blake Jarwin anymore. Tavon Austin on Craig James. Let's put Craig up, and let's just throw it up and see what happens. Because who the hell knows what pass interference is anymore? So
this is wild. I don't think any challenge has gone through in the direction it's supposed to go through all season.
Like Trey Waynes ran Aguilar over, and they're like, "Oh, nope, that's fine."
And then Zach Jones breathed on him the wrong way. That was annoying because you're right. It was the same exact thing. It was
that they did to Thielen. That Rasul got called on.
Rasul got called on it, and then the call didn't get. Zach Ertz didn't get the call, and then it was the exact same route, exact same play, exact same kind of contact, and it got called. It's just ridiculous. The problem is the inconsistency. Like if you're gonna call it ticky tacky, call it ticky tacky the whole way. If you're not gonna call anything, don't call anything the whole way. It's just because it's inconsistent and there's no cookie cutter way to kind of look at it. And that's something that Sam and I have talked about on Babes on Broad a lot, is just the fact that so many of these penalties are subjective, and it can't be called the same way across the league, but it can't even be called the same way across a game. Mm-hmm. And that's what I hate blaming refs for games, because there's always one more play that an offense or defense can make that a ref can't screw up completely. They can always do better, so it doesn't come down to the refs. But at the end of the day, the refs aren't held nearly as accountable for screwing things up as they should be. And, obviously there wasn't one call we can point to today that totally screwed up the whole game, but it's just so hard to deal with. And I mean, I'm sure you guys saw the ending of that Dallas game.
Mm-hmm. Those five flags thrown.
It was ridiculous. I think it was 3 back to back on the Jets, and then 2 on Dallas, and then 1 more on the Jets. And it was just like, why keep calling these? I mean, half of them are, again, subjective.
It was wild. And then the Cowboys game, it was 3 pass interference calls literally back to back to back, in the Cowboys' favor.
One of the things not in the Cowboys' favor. I mean, last year we clearly recovered a fumble, and they said nope, no clear recovery.
That's still mind blowing.
Over that.
Yeah, that was wild. Like, it was nothing but Eagles players around that ball, and somehow, some way, it was not a clear recovery.
Like on that onside kick for Demaryius Thomas that he almost fucked up at the end. I was expecting the rest to say, "Oh, Cowboys fall." I was totally
somehow, some way.
It's ridiculous how I feel like the refs have such a vendetta against the league right now for some reason. Maybe they didn't get their personal days in their CBA or something that they.
Well, apparently in the new CBA, the owners are pulling for where refs could be held accountable and actually lose their job over calls like this.
I mean, I really hate. I've never been one to like. I mean, I know, and I'm going to contradict myself because I've been saying fire Jim Schwartz for the last few weeks. I'm not one to like call for people's jobs.
Lies. You've been offering me and trade demands for Jalen Ramsey for the past 3 weeks.
Okay,
I don't want to
that
hear
doesn't
that.
mean you're not getting a job down there.
Yeah, but I don't want to go to Jacksonville.
I'm not saying you should be fired.
Exactly, just temporarily
shipping me off.
Shipped off. It's like if we're sending
That's
human
called
resources.
taking one for the team.
Exactly. Thank you. It's
that's not fair.
How many times have you seen companies outsource their human resources to India?
Oh wow, that's how we're doing this.
I'm going to outsource you to Jacksonville so we can get Jalen Ramsey over. That's all.
Disrespect.
That's it. But anyways, because I'm a teacher also. My wife's a teacher, and we make so little that losing a job it's going to be devastating. So like I look at it from that point. You're calling for people's jobs, but Jim Schwartz has made so many millions of dollars in his life. He can go somewhere.
He can
else.
afford this.
He can afford being fired. These refs, I don't know how much they make, and I feel like
they make $200,000 a year on average.
Are you serious?
Yes.
In that case, all right. So let me change. I don't give a shit because what they just did in one game probably is my 1 year of work. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's 4 years of work for me.
Like they're getting exercise, they're running up and down the field, and they're saying, you know what, that kind of looks like a catch. So it's a catch. It's like they're being mobile weathermen out there. Because the weathermen. Yeah. They're like, it's might rain, and then when it doesn't rain, they're going like, oh, we said it might. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And I know that they get graded every week, and there's different tiers of what they can do, and if they get a certain grade for the season, then they're eligible to be refs in playoffs, and they can get promoted to that kind of thing and demoted or whatever. But it's just in such a public job. And something that's impacts the game so much and has a literal impact on how a game turns out and how players do and how players do with their jobs. And you don't know, could that have negated a catch that would have been the person's last catch for whatever bonus they were eligible for with a certain number of catches or a certain number of yards, or the quarterback whatever. I get frustrated that we don't see these refs being held as accountable as you or I would if you would screw up your job that badly.
Exactly. We don't have, like especially in teaching when we get observed, and we get three observations a year. And
I'm talking to the principal of your school then.
Leave my principal out of this.
No, what's his name?
No, don't worry about it. And it's principal, mind your business. We have our observations. Then they say it's graded out of 4. And then they say a 4 is the best. So and then if your observation sucks, they're like, okay, bye. Especially if you're not tenure. So same thing with these refs. Every game they need to go to the podium and explain calls or non-calls, and say, okay, if it's a judgment call, what were you looking at in that judgment for you to make that judgment? Why can't they just throw a flag or not throw a flag and be like, that's my decision, get over it? Have them explain it.
I agree.
It's people make errors, but
they
people
make
have to
errors.
explain. People have to explain. People outside of Brian apparently make errors.
No, time out. The refs make more errors than any normal human being, and they make errors with the proof in front of them. Like that's mind blowing to me. There's no way they, like, for example, the Eagles game, you want to bring that up again. There's no way I'm going to see 11 people around the damn ball and say that it's not a clear recovery. Like, that's stupidity at
Like,
some
what
point.
the hell are they looking at in the camera? And they're like, okay, that's an Eagles player. That's an Eagles player. That's an Eagles player.
Mind you, they got people in, I
That's
think,
an
in New
Eagles
York,
player.
right?
That's an Eagles player.
Looking at it.
That's also an Eagles player right there. Closest Cowboy is all the way down here, 10 yards away.
It's Jason Gary on the sideline.
No clear recovery.
At the end of the day, if I'm held accountable for selling the wrong phone in my job, then they got to be held accountable for being stupid. That's it.
Agreed. and I mean, think about it. I mean, it's refs in any sport on any experience level. Like, my sister plays field hockey and she's in high school. Like, high school field hockey refs are some of the worst refs on planet Earth, but it's across the board everywhere. Yep. But no one is, they get to keep their job no matter what happens, how bad their calls are. But, if a girl does something terrible, she gets benched for making the wrong decision there. It's across the board that, and especially at such a high level where they're getting paid way more money than I make, way more money than most people in the country make, and you just get to make decisions and make a lot of money? No, that's not how the world works. No.
Speaking of high school refs, I played basketball my whole life, and I was never the nicest.
Left bench doesn't count, right?
Yeah, water boy does though, right?
It depends.
It
depends.
We still get a participation trophy at the end of the year.
Okay, I'll give you that.
And I was never the nicest to refs because I was always. I'm not tall. I'm only 6 feet, but I was always the brolic one there. I was always the muscle that they sent in to beat up the other centers.
Sure.
And humble brag here.
Just a little bit.
I was always stronger. I was always strong because I'm moving the microphone closer so everybody can hear.
Is there a way I can mute you? Is that possible?
I was the strongest one on the court. And whenever I get the ball down low, kids are like jumping on me and they wouldn't call a foul. And I've cursed out many refs. And I'm about to be freshman boys basketball coach this winter for the first time, and I just pray for every ref that's going to come across my way because I'm going to argue everything. That's what I do. I just even if it's a good call, I'm like, no, fuck that. No, he traveled and he didn't even touch the ball yet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry in advance to all the referees that I meet.
I have a question though. Like, are you going to be wearing an Eagles shirt underneath your coach shirt, your coach polo?
Well, yes.
I feel like that's very important to your career.
Yes. I mean, it has to. For the brand, right?
Okay, yeah, I mean, for the brand would have been a flip and a bird shirt, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
same thing, right?
I don't want to be too pompous.
Okay.
Self-promote all the time.
So expectations, Dallas.
I do that all the time.
I'm starting to get because I've never really been one to kind of talk about myself. I hate talk. I talk, but I really, and Brian's gonna disagree with me. But I've always growing up, I've never really been one to talk about myself or anything like that because I just that's not
read our text messages on a daily basis.
Yeah, shut up. But this week, the last couple of weeks, I've met some random people that end up being Eagles fans, and for example, this past weekend I was up in Binghamton, the middle of nowhere, New York, and I was at a house party, and we were all talking about football, and I mentioned.
Wait, hold on. You're not that much younger than me. How old are you? You're like 29, 30.
I'm 30.
They still do house parties at that age?
It was like a housewarming party.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Very sure.
With some really good beer on tap on keg, and we were talking about football, and the guy goes, "Oh yeah, I'm an Eagles fan." I go, "Oh shit, me too." Yeah, and then so we're talking, and I'm like, "Oh, so you know Philly Sports Network? You know Flippin' Birds Pod?" And he actually, to my surprise, is like, "Oh yeah, I know those people." I'm like, "Oh, that's me." I'm like, "What's your Twitter? What's your handle? Follow me. Well, here's Spotify. Look, that's right here. Let's go." And it also happened it was 2 weeks ago. I was down by my parents' house in Nanuet, New York, Giants country, absolute Giants country, and a little bit of Dallas country too. It's where I went to high school, and I'm at this. And I'm gonna shout them out right now because they are the best place in the world. It's called Growler and Gill. It's a beer. It's a tap room that you could buy bottles, single bottles, make your own 6-packs and all that stuff. It was opened by my old high school biology teacher. So whenever I go in there, he gives me a hookup on different beers and everything. So I'm talking to him for a little bit because it was the first time he found out that I'm having a baby. So we're talking, and this guy comes up, like, smacks me on the shoulder, and I look at him, and he's like pointing to his hat. He's like, "Go Birds!" And because I guess he saw my hat, and so we're talking, and then again I was like, "Oh, you know Philly Sports Network?" It's like, "Yeah." He mentioned, he's like, "Oh, there's a podcast called Flipping Birds, something that I realized." I'm like, "Oh shit, that's me."
Love that. I love when that happens.
So I'm like, I got in the car with my wife. I'm like, "Listen, you're gonna have to deal with my popularity. It's skyrocketing right now."
Did you start waving out the window and everything? Like,
No, I'm waiting. I'm waiting until I hit 600 followers on Twitter for that.
So, segueing away from a football life is Chris Infante. Dallas and Philly, expectations.
Well, first of all, my mom just texted me and said, "Hi, Lovey, how are you after that miserable game? Are you doing okay?" So she knows where we are right now, checking in to make sure I'm okay.
Shout out to mom.
Making sure that I'm making it through the night. Honestly, I expect the Eagles to bounce back. As unfortunate as it's been, I do. Other than they've bounced back from their losses fairly well this season. With aside from the bouncing back from the Falcons and going into the Lions game, they've done relatively well, kind of coming back and figuring it out what they needed to, and coming back with games that they should have won, coming back with statement games. I obviously give credit to the Vikings. I think they're a decent football team, but there's no reason the Eagles should have lost that game. The Eagles absolutely should have won that game. The way that they played was inexcusable. And I think that they absolutely bounced back, especially against a division opponent. That being said, Dallas is looking to bounce back after 3 losses. And no matter what the records are, these games are always tough. They're always going to be competitive. But I really see kind of more of what the Eagles did against the Packers, playing a really tight game on offense, not turning the ball over, not getting any penalties, not shooting themselves in the foot, and really executing in a more crisp way on offense. I don't know what to expect out of the defense. I would hope that maybe the way that Malcolm, kind of called out some of these corners, especially Sidney Jones, helps them step up a little bit, lights a fire under them a little bit. There's no reason that, the oldest guy on the defense that plays every snap, like I guess Anderson Dejo. Is Anderson Dejo older than? I don't know. But, the leader of the defense who's played every single defensive snap for the last 3 years and additionally plays snaps on special teams, there's no reason that he should be out there showing these young guys up over and over and over and over and over again when they need to step up as well and show that they deserve a spot on this roster, because at the end of the day, this team is a competitor. This team is a playoff team that it's not just anybody that's an NFL player can walk onto this roster and that should be acceptable. There should be a certain standard that they have set at this point, especially after winning a Super Bowl, that you are required to play at to continue to play on this roster. And right now, guys like Sidney Jones haven't shown that they are worthy to keep their spot.
I was such a big Sidney Jones fan. When we got him in the second round. I know we missed out on Cook, but he was the perfect redshirt player. Like how Dallas did it with Jalen Smith. Sidney Jones was going to be a top 10 pick if he was healthy. It was across the board, number 1 cornerback in the whole draft. He's going to be the next, Asante Samuel. He's going to be the next whatever.
Isn't that so wild though?
He was going to be so great. He's the prototypical number 1 cornerback that you want. So the Eagles got him in the second round for him to sit out a year and then be ready. We'll sit out a year and then play 1 game. And now it's so sad to see. I hate admitting when I'm wrong, and I was wrong. I was like, it was the same thing. Like I loved having Chip Kelly when he got hired. I was all about the offensive innovation and all that stuff, and then I was like, oh my God, I was so wrong. And it's
in your defense, I think we all were though.
Yeah.
We all were just excited to see something new. Yeah. And it royally backfired.
Yeah, we were all like kind of over the, all right, Andy, we love you, but it's run its course.
Yeah.
We love you. Thank you for everything, but you got to go. And now Chip Kelly's in, fresh new ideas. But I will say, I tweeted this out the other day, and people got mad at me for this. I did tweet out Chip Kelly is about to get fired from UCLA. He should come over and be the trainer for the Eagles, because the Eagles were the healthiest team I've ever seen when he was around with all the sports science and the smoothies and all that stuff. Bring those all back over, because
I don't think he's allowed in the building though.
I know they probably got locks. They
Like,
probably got facial
imagine
recognition.
him
They
walking
have
in
his
and
face
seeing Howie
plastered
Roseman.
everywhere.
Yeah. And it's not like he could
Wanted.
fight. It's not like he could sneak in, because he looks like Porky Pig. So it's, he's not gonna.
Like, could you imagine him and Howie Roseman in the same room?
That wouldn't go well. Howie would walk around with Jason Peters next to him at all times.
Here's
We'll bring back Kiko Alonso.
Here's well, I'll take him right now. Hell, we got a linebacker court. All right, don't get me on that. No, but so Skip Bayless.
Oh, jeez.
You're not allowed to mention that name on this podcast. I'm sorry. We're not doing that.
Here's his troll level right now.
Oh my god.
At 7:55. Remember, the Cowboys played that whole game with an undrafted rookie at right tackle.
What?
So there's excuse number one
Okay.
for losing to the Jets. You had an undrafted rookie right tackle. So
Leonard Williams is a defensive tackle. He doesn't touch the right tackle.
Yeah, Leonard Williams had it having his way with that line. And then he also, 20 minutes ago, Dak Prescott is in all capital letters, warrior.
Said no one ever.
He's.
You gotta remember, like, Skip gets paid millions just to be a jackass.
He gets paid millions to wipe his ass on a microphone, and then he gets
his content.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And then he posts pictures with his new sneakers and shit now. And I can't lose with these sneakers on or whatever. That guy, it's ridiculous. I don't
His
know.
takes on the Cowboys are terrible, and anyone with a brain could see that they're just so far off and wrong. But that's like the only thing he says that reckless crap about. If you sit and listen to Skip and Shannon in the morning, it's so much different than the little clips that are promoted about Skip. But he also doesn't do himself any favors by tweeting the things that he tweets about the Cowboys. But when talking about other things, you're like, oh, you're not all bad. But then you talk about the Cowboys and you have to turn the TV off. It's terrible.
I used to like him with Stephen A, but now with Undisputed, it's just like it's just always Eagles versus Cowboys.
Every episode, it's about Brady, it's about LeBron, it's about the Cowboys.
Yes.
So
sometimes Lil Wayne comes on.
Sometimes.
Yeah. They did talk about Ben Simmons the other day.
Oh,
and they were in agreement that if he has a jump shot and can actually shoot and is willing to take shots, then the rest of the league should be scared, and he will be top 3 MVP voting for the next.
My guy looks very confident right now shooting the jump shot, and I'm loving every second of it.
I'm excited. I'm excited
wait.
in ways I can't even explain.
You guys are about to bring out. So we already brought out the Cowboys fans, but now you're bringing out the Cowboys / Jazz fans. They're about to.
They find me every couple weeks anyway. All 12 of them.
Donovan Mitchell is actually the NBA's version of Dak Prescott. Just a segue.
He is 100% the NBA's version of Dak Prescott. A glorified sixth man, and Dak Prescott is some glorified quarterback because of his offensive line and running back. And it's the same. It's unbelievable to watch.
We can't escape it as Philly fans. Like, it's everywhere.
We just keep beating them. I guess it doesn't really matter.
So
Donovan Mitchell can't win against the Sixers.
Not at all. If we beat the Cowboys next week, obviously, like, things are looking up at some point. I mean, I feel like we've gone through the lows of lows right now, and things really, they could get worse, but could they really get worse?
Don't say that, because then they might.
No, I'm hoping. There's no way it could get worse than last year. Like,
we're not at rock bottom right now, so there is still rock bottom to go to. So yes, it can get worse.
Point.
I'm considering this rock bottom right now. No, Deshaun is rock bottom right now.
Yeah.
The fact that his offense looks very compressed, is a little bit scary that Miles Sanders is our deep threat right now because Nelson Aguilar can't track a ball.
We did kind of get a change today. Jordan Howard finally started the game, and Wentz was under center,
which I've been praying for all season.
I was like, wow, change. And then next play, Howard's out after a 5-yard gain. Sanders is back in, and Wentz is back in shotgun. I'm like, wow, never mind. We're still doing that shit again still. But I think this week leading up to the game, we see another player or two called up from the practice squad to fill out, and then so my notifications will be going off, and I'll be saying, "Oh, nope, that's not the player I've been looking for." Same thing I've been doing the last few weeks. Whenever a notification comes up, and I just got an Apple Watch, and now it comes up. Now with my Fitbit before, none of these notifications were coming up. I would have to actually look at my phone. Now the notifications coming up. Eagles have signed, and I'm looking. I'm like in the middle of teaching, and I'm like, oh shit, never mind. And then they're like, oh wait, I can't say that. I'm around kindergartners.
I have a question real quick, just to interrupt you. Meaning you're talking about the Eagles signing, right? Where the hell is Mike Wallace? Like, can the Eagles reach out to him? Like, is he alive? Like, is it possible just to bring him in?
I think he tweets all the time.
He live tweets every NFL game. Like, I think he has Red Zone up and just live tweets.
It's just so he's just sitting on his couch, just
doing nothing.
He's out there. Obviously Torrey Smith is retired, but like we need to, and I know this probably won't happen because of all of everything he said during the offseason, because the NFL will come up to his door immediately if he gets signed to test him. Chris, I miss Chris Long so much.
Me too.
His pass rush.
I don't think his body's in football shape anymore.
No, he probably is in football shape, but his outspoken on weed and marijuana use and all this stuff, they're going to test him as soon as he signs that contract.
Yeah, and we need another pass rusher, honestly.
There is Michael Bennett, which
who's actually on his way out from New England because they've been cutting his snaps down like there's no tomorrow.
I think against the Giants he played 11 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at him. You look at Solomon Thomas on the Niners. I know the Niners are 5-0, but Thomas is a former 7th overall pick. Oh no, sorry, 3rd overall pick, and he's not playing any snaps over there. You look at Leonard Williams. Try and get him here. They need beef up front and I know I keep complaining about the cornerbacks being the reason why the pass rushers can get home, which is kind of the reason. But we need a pass rush. Ridgeway had a great game today.
He did. He's one of the 4 we can list who actually came to play and played till the end.
Yeah. Him and Cox. Cox looked healthy.
Clutch had a better game today.
Finally looks healthy. Brandon Graham was still doing Brandon Graham things, and Derek Barnett, he's getting there, but he's not getting home. But it doesn't help that Kirk Cousins was able to just launch the ball up, and Diggs is open, he's gonna get it. Or Laquan Treadwell gets when Treadwell gets a catch.
Flexing on us, right?
When Treadwell gets a catch on you, there's some issues on the back end.
Oh yeah.
Like that should be like that tiptoe, that catch that he made should be a picture in the Eagles locker room right now, blown up, in Howie Roseman's office. Say, this is why we need a corner. Look who caught the ball.
We definitely need some type of help back there, or two, honestly. I might trade you for Chris Harris at this point.
That's fine. I'll go to Denver. My wife loves Colorado.
No. She has to stay. You got to go.
Stay, so I don't even get to see the birth of my daughter.
Well, that's up for we can negotiate that.
Oh, yeah, negotiate my ass.
So, you guys are really expecting to win this weekend, or?
Yes, I will.
Yes.
I will never, ever, ever, as long as I'm alive, pick against the Philadelphia Eagles. It could be week 16, and they are currently 0-15, and I will still pick them to win the game.
Jess is officially a Flipping the Birds legend.
I will never, ever, 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 ever pick against them, and I will give you as many stats and facts as I can to defend my point. It might end up being wrong, like it has been 3 times this year, but I expect them to win every week. I expect them to win on Sunday.
I'm definitely not worried about this Cowboys team as I was about last year's Cowboys team.
Hmm.
Like seeing how they got pretty much like knocked the hell out back to earth. I'm very confident with the way that Wentz is dealing that the Eagles will pull this off somehow, some way. Even if it's gonna be an ugly win, I think they pull it off.
Yeah, I think they do pull it off. Also, previewing the season, and when I did my article, I did put this down as a win because it's Cowboys Eagles. It's going to be a bloodbath, especially with. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of chirping between DeMarcus Lawrence and Lane Johnson this week, and I am going to be retweeting all of it
I'm praying
because
for a clothesline from Lane Johnson. Like that's
Lane
all I want to
Johnson's
see.
going to make DeMarcus Lawrence his baby again, and show that Lawrence is an overpaid bum. We're gonna have so many the Cowboys fans in our mentions this week. We welcome it.
Hmm.
Just please be prepared to respond to us when you realize you're wrong, because it's a big trend with Cowboys fans that when they tweet at you and then you tweet it back and show that they're wrong, they don't tweet back for some
It's
reason.
like that Homer Simpson meme where it
Yeah,
kind of
they just go
disappears into
back
the
into
bushes.
the bush. That's what they do. They scurry back off into the little dark corner that they came from.
So we're all picking the Cowboys to win. Just I want to get your outlook now.
Wait, what?
What you mean what?
You just said? So we're all picking the Cowboys to win.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I
How
apologize
dare
for that.
you?
We're all picking the Eagles to win. My fault.
How dare you?
We're all picking the Eagles to win. Sorry. I think it might have been the
Yes.
brew. It's
Yeah.
definitely the brew. I don't know what the ABV on it was. Jess, I want to know what your outlook is for the rest of the season now.
So my outlook for the rest of the season is I was obviously hopeful that they would go 3-0 over this 3-game road trip. I think they have to come out of it 2-1 at this point. Get home, beat the Bears at home, because the Bears, their defense is very good, but I mean, if you let Trubisky beat you, quit on the season right there. So I think that they
Or even Chase Daniel, whoever it is that back
whoever
there.
it is, I don't care. If you let them beat you, you should quit.
It's done.
I think that they do either go 3-3 or 4-2. I'm hopeful for a 4-2 over these, including today, next 6 games. It's definitely a tough stretch. It'll be a good game. Obviously, watching them, play the Patriots here at the link. Obviously the Patriots look very, very good this year, and their defense is one of the best Patriots defenses I think I remember seeing ever, because their defense has never been their strong suit, and that defense looks very, very good. Granted, again, there's they got to play the Giants. They've already played the Bills. They've played, their division just isn't fair.
Never
Honestly.
is.
They could be a playoff team winning their division at 6-10 every year. But I think that they do kind of make their way through this. Things start to click. They go, 3-3, hopefully 4-2 through this next stretch. And, they kind of win out they win out in December to make sure that they are at good standing, hopefully at 11-5 by the end of the season. I think they pull it together. They're going to figure it out. This team has too much talent to waste this season. And especially with some of the different injuries. And let's keep in mind, the NFC is wide open at this point. Some of the teams you thought were going to be good aren't. The 49ers look very good, but they're still a young team. Once the playoffs come around, are they going to be able to succeed? Who really knows? Their offense is really young, really inexperienced, not a whole lot of playoff experience on that offensive side. Obviously, you can talk about Jimmy Garoppolo but he was, the backup quarterback. He didn't really play in any of those playoff situations in New England. But, other than that, the Saints are so without Drew Brees. So where it's all going to kind of come down to seeding at the end. And I just think that the Eagles have way too much talent to just sacrifice this whole season, and they're going to figure it out. They're going to pull it together, and they're going to win the division. I really don't see any way where Dallas is actually going to win this division, given the way that their season ends with those difficult matchups to close out. And I still think that I picked them as my Super Bowl team from the NFC. I picked them to win the Super Bowl to start the season, and I'm not backing off of that, 6 weeks into the season.
I respect it. Liam, if you're listening, we can replace Chris at any point you want with Jess. Just, say the word.
Do I become a babe on Broad then?
I don't know
guess.
if Sam would
Or
agree with that.
Or would I be the beard on Broad?
Beard on Broad, that's good.
There we go.
That might fit.
There we go.
Or the Broad with the beard.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
How you feeling, Chris? Talk to me. I feel like you have a lot to say. I see it.
I never have a lot to say.
Lies.
No, like I wholeheartedly agree with everything Jesse just said. It's going to be a long ass season. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And right now, if you break it up, you got to break up this season into quarters. The first quarter and it's every 4 games. So obviously the first quarter didn't do too well. And then now through the second quarter, you're 1-1. So if you come out every quarter with 1 loss, you're 12-14. Come out every quarter with 2 losses, then you're 8-18. So you got to really, you can't do 2-2 every 4 games. It's just not. You're going to be the Dallas Cowboys of the early 2000s, late 2000s. And you beat the Cowboys. You had a lot of momentum going into the Bills game. Bills have a great defense. And we're going to, after the Dallas game, we are welcoming in another BGN legend, Michael Kist, next week to talk about the Bills game. And, you beat them. You get the wagon off the Bills. Then you come back home finally and face the Bears. Again, I'm sure Jordan Howard's going to have a great game that game. And Lane Johnson already showed that he can handle Khalil Mack. So Lane Johnson can handle anybody. And then the Patriots, I'm so conflicted with them.
I'm still picking them to beat the Patriots. I don't care.
I mean, I'm going to pick them to beat the Patriots too, Brian. Just let me talk, man.
Don't get sassy with me, okay? Do not get sassy with me.
But it's their defense has been playing lights out. But again, like Jesse just said, who the hell did they beat? It's every year with this damn team. They just face the bottom of the barrel competition, and they end up.
How do they get these nice schedules?
Because they're in the AFC East. Eight of their games are gimmies. So then they face 1 or 2 teams during the year that are the same. They end up being first place from different divisions. But then those teams that were first place last year, this year they're terrible. It's every year with this damn team. My only game the rest of the year that I'm really worried about. I'm not even worried about the Patriots game. I'm worried about the Seattle game because Russ Wilson is going to do it off this year, and he is. I don't think he's thrown an interception yet this year, unless he threw one against the Browns. I don't know.
He looks really good this year.
He looks like MVP this year.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Seattle doesn't have a defense. So, it's really going to be Russell Wilson running all over us, throwing to himself probably, and then seeing how he can do it. He can do it. He just has to. He's going to throw it deep, and he's going to run past Craig James and catch himself. Whoever has Russell Wilson that week in fantasy is going to be. He's probably have a 60-point game. Okay. But and then you got 4 straight division games after the Dolphins game. And I swear to God, and I know there are trap games. The Cowboys fell into a trap game today, thankfully. If there's any, by December, what is it, 3rd, the Miami game, if that offense sputters against Miami, the Philly's going to burn down.
I'm going to be on a plane during that game, and if I land to find out that they sputtered and lost to the Miami Dolphins, I don't even know what I'll do.
That's every Eagles fan's worst nightmare right now.
If you lose to the Dolphins, who are averaging before today 7 points a game.
Well, maybe Xavier Howard is wearing a different kind of green for that game.
Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey, Chris Harris, all on the Eagles secondary.
Stop. You weren't allowed to mention Jalen.
You made it so far.
I made it an hour. That's all right.
Oh my god.
But yeah, look forward to. Speaking of secondaries, right this week. Big addition. Eagles sign practice squad.
If I see one more notification like
Harris back on the squad this week. Watch, he's going to be back this week. Genie Harris, and But I will say, going back on earlier, I do think something gets. I do think we end up with a star corner. It's there. There's for as stubborn as Howie is being right now to trade someone. But no matter how many reports are out there that the Eagles are calling on Ramsey or calling on this, they're interested in this. I really think Howie's gonna give in. Be like, listen, we need to get someone because you saw what happened to me. You need to do it. Like you can't put blinders on. And I know if I forget who said it. I think it was oh my god, who said it? If you listen to the fans, you're gonna be sitting with the fans. I forget who said it. But in a way, that's true. Like if you keep listening to the fans and what you should do and not do, then you're gonna end up being fired and being a fan yourself. But you can't you can't be completely blind and deaf to what's going on with Eagles fans. We're all yelling at you, fix this secondary because the duct tape ain't working. It's that cheap dollar store duct tape that they got. It just falls off as soon as you put it on the wall.
That's some real cheap tape.
It's real. You gotta get the Gorilla Tape, not duct tape. Gorilla Tape is where it's at.
How much Gorilla Tape do you have in your house?
I got about 3-4 rolls.
Didn't even know Gorilla Tape existed.
No, go to Home Depot. You go to the paint section because I've been doing a lot of painting in my house. So you go to the paint section. They got duct tape. They got Gorilla Tape. You've never heard of Gorilla Glue?
I've heard of the glue, but not.
Yeah, so they got tape. They got Gorilla Tape.
But it's like official tape. Like you're not putting the glue on tape, right? You're just calling it tape.
No. Well, it's just.
You're Puerto Rican, so just making sure.
Us Puerto Ricans, we know how we like to finagle things.
A lot of maneuvering.
We like to put things where they don't belong and just say, okay, that works right there. But that's not this. If it's a wobbly chair, we will put cardboard underneath that chair until it doesn't wobble anymore. No matter how many things of cardboard.
I'm so guilty of that in my childhood.
And trust me, I have a lot of Puerto Rican tendencies that my wife is like, no, you can't do that. You're 30 years old.
And Jess is very quiet. I feel like she's very quiet because she's gone through this before.
just listening intently.
Listening to our bullshit. But anyways, before we go, Jesse, I want to bring in one of your special parts of your podcast. Is there a special drink you had today or this weekend that you want to share with our listeners?
We did actually. So we last week for the game against the Jets, we did something called a snake bite, and we got a Yards Pale Ale, and then we got just a cider, and you do half and half of those. And we put in some blueberry syrup for a little sweetness, and it was actually really, really good. And then today we had some leftovers from last week, so we just chopped up some pineapple, put in a little bit of the rest of the yards that we had, and then some mango Malibu rum, and that was delicious. And we finished the liquid of it pretty quickly, but then we had just a little bit of pineapple sitting in the bottom that was soaking for a while, and we saved that right in our fridge, and it's delicious.
It sounds like you have a brewery in your house. I respect it.
We have, we try to do a drink of the week for every week, and we've actually found some pretty good concoctions since we started doing it, so hopefully we keep finding some more good ones.
Chris, you're letting me down.
Well, every podcast except for today, I've had a beer in my hand, so it's just different beer every week. But this weekend, when I was up in Binghamton, it was my buddy's birthday. He lives by himself now, bought a house and everything. He's like, I've become a bartender. Well, okay, make me something. And he made a peach, it's like a peach Manhattan, and it was he cut a peach up into quarters, and he took one quarter and he muddled it in the whiskey glass, the bourbon glass. and then he poured in peach pecan whiskey, and I think he put a little bit of seltzer in there, and then he garnished it with a peach on top of it. And to me, if it's sweet, I'm not a big sweet guy for my bourbon drinks. But if you like peach, that I could see people really liking what he did. It was interesting.
I just had a regular brew. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I let down this podcast right now.
You did. Now we got to end it with a disappointment. Nice job.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I mean, it fits. We're disappointed in the Vikings win, And
you're a disappointment, so good.
Listen, don't start with me, woman. All right, guys. So you're looking at me in disappointment, and I don't like it. Can you fix your face?
I can't fix my face. It's how I was born. But anyways, so yeah, everybody, obviously it's disappointment, but next week brighter days are ahead. We hope, because if we lose to the Cowboys, I might throw something.
They wear black on Sunday because I feel like I need to see that black jersey to feel so
black
good.
On black?
Yes, I need to see that.
Black on black on Sunday, especially in AT&T Stadium. We need it, and I can't. And I know the Eagles lost, but I cannot wait to talk so much shit to my Cowboys students this week because he lost to the Jets. But
you notice your students are like 20 years younger than you, right?
Yes.
Okay, just want to be sure. It's considered like bullying in some states.
Yeah, I do it. I do it in a way where I play the Eagles fight song on my stereo in my gym. So I make them do exercises to fly Eagles fly.
That's considered torture. And
then I get on the microphone. We have a microphone in my gym. I'm like, hey, Cowboys lost. Hey, and they're just putting his heads in their hands, and everybody else is like laughing at them and stuff. And hey, it's fine. All right.
Well, segue from there. Jess, thank you so much for being on. Where can all of our listeners find you at?
You can find me. So I'm on Twitter at RunThisTown with an E13. And you can also find both of our podcasts. So the one is at Philly_Madness. The other one's at Babes on Broad. You can find us Babes on Broad on Instagram as well. Same with the Madness on Instagram, same handle. And yeah, all of my stuff is on Twitter, and all of my articles that I've written and all my podcasts are on my website, jessicatownmedia.com.
Awesome. And I feel like this is not going to be the last time that we have Jessica on the podcast this season. I'm hoping it's not. I kind of need her to filter out the criticism in my podcast.
I'd be happy to come on anytime to help filter.
There we go.
All right. And on that note, you can find me at Fonte54. You can find Brian at BCamera PSN. You can find us at Flippin' Birds Pod on Twitter, and you can find. I would especially think that you should follow me, so you can keep following my criticism of Brian on Twitter every day.
If you offer me another trade, I'm gonna have a long talk with you and your wife.
I'm going to write an article this week about places that I would trade Brian Cameron to get a cornerback. And it's going to be featured on Bleacher Report. It's going to be great. But, and as always, and again, like Brian said, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on. It's always great having another voice, and especially a voice like yours. Everybody listens to you. Everybody either yells at you as if they're a Jazz or a Cowboys fan, or they love you as an Eagles fan, Sixers fans. So it's great to have voices like that on this. And look forward to having you on again one day, and to filter out Brian's bullshit. And
wow, you were waiting to sneak that in there.
Thank you, everyone, and go Birds.
Yes, sir.